Tonight, brace yourself, because what you're about to hear is not your average reality TV recap, but a fictional, dramatized, what-if scandal crafted straight from the wildest corners of the love and hip-hop universe. In this imagined storyline, fans are shocked, timelines are on fire, and emotions ran high the moment a jaw-dropping confession allegedly echoed through Atlanta's gossip grapevine. Picture this: cameras rolling, lights blazing, and a room so tense you could cut it with a stare. In this fabricated reality TV drama, Rasheeda, known for her poise, patience, and resilience, drops a bombshell that no one saw coming. A confession so shocking it flips the narrative on its head and leaves even her closest allies speechless. For years, viewers have watched the ups and downs of Rasheeda and Kirk's relationship play out in the public eye: betrayal, forgiveness, family strain, and hard-earned healing. But in this imagined scenario, the script takes a dramatic turn. Whispers turn into rumors, rumors turn into speculation, and speculation explodes into a confession that shakes the foundation of everything fans thought they knew. In this fictional telling, Rasheeda stands at a crossroads between loyalty and truth, love and regret, silence and a shocking reveal that could change her family forever. The room goes quiet, Kirk's face freezes, friends exchange uneasy glances, the air feels heavy with words left unsaid. Did she really say what everyone thinks she said? In this made-for-entertainment storyline, Rasheeda allegedly admits to cheating on Kirk, and just like that, the power dynamics shift. The internet erupts, fans are divided, some cry betrayal, others scream double standards, and many are left wondering what this means for a couple that's survived so much already. Emotions ran high as reactions poured in from every direction. Friends question their loyalty, family members pick sides, old wounds reopen, and new accusations fly. In this fictional universe, the family was left divided, and the line between victim and villain blurred beyond recognition. Was this confession an act of honesty, or the spark that ignites an irreversible downfall? As the imagined drama unfolds, one thing becomes clear: nothing will ever be the same. Secrets don't just come out, they explode. And in this sensationalized, fictional reality TV moment, the question isn't just what happened, it's what happens next. Stay with us, because this is only the beginning of a story that pushes love, trust, and reputation to the breaking point. The cameras were already rolling when the energy in the room shifted in a way nobody could ignore, the kind of shift that makes producers glance at each other because they know something big is about to happen. In this imagined storyline, Rasheeda sat on the couch with her hands folded tightly in her lap, her eyes glossy but steady, like someone who had already cried all the tears she was going to cry before walking into the storm. Kirk sat across from her, leaning back, arms crossed, wearing that familiar guarded expression that fans had seen 100 times before, the look that said he was ready for a fight but not prepared for what was coming next. The room was filled with cast members, friends, and a few family faces, all pretending this was just another group conversation, but the tension was loud, almost buzzing. Rasheeda cleared her throat, and when she spoke, her voice was calm in a way that felt unsettling. She said she was tired, not just tired in her body but tired in her spirit, tired of carrying weight that nobody ever expected her to carry. Fans are shocked in this fictional universe because for once, she was not defending, not forgiving, not smoothing things over. She was standing still, letting silence do some of the work. Kirk tried to jump in, asking what this was about, his tone already defensive, but she raised her hand gently, stopping him mid-sentence. That small gesture sent a ripple through the room. Everyone leaned forward. She started talking about the past, about how everything they had been through had left marks that never fully healed. She talked about nights spent alone while the world watched their marriage like it was entertainment, about smiling through embarrassment, about choosing family even when it hurt. Kirk shook his head, muttering that here we go again, but she kept going. Emotions ran high as her words grew heavier, and even people who had come in ready to take sides started looking uncomfortable. This wasn't the usual blame game. This felt different. Then she said something that made the room go silent. In this fabricated drama, Rasheeda admitted that there was a moment in her life where she felt invisible, unwanted, and exhausted from being strong. She said she didn't recognize herself during that time, and that loneliness has a way of convincing you that you deserve something else, even if it's wrong. Kirk's posture changed immediately. He leaned forward now, eyes narrowed, asking her what she was trying to say. She swallowed hard, her voice cracking just enough to feel real, and said she crossed a line she never thought she would cross. Gasps filled the room. Someone whispered "no way" under their breath. Another cast member covered her mouth, eyes wide. Fans are shocked in this fictional storyline because the narrative flipped in an instant. Kirk laughed at first, a sharp, disbelieving sound, accusing her of playing games for the cameras. He said she was trying to rewrite history, trying to make herself look like a victim turned villain for sympathy. Rasheeda shook her head slowly and said she wasn't asking for sympathy, she was asking for honesty. She said she had carried this secret like a stone in her chest and she couldn't do it anymore. The argument escalated quickly. Kirk stood up, pacing the room, his voice rising as he listed everything he had been dragged for over the years. He said he had already paid for his mistakes publicly and privately, and now she wanted to add this on top of it. Rasheeda stood too, matching his energy for the first time in a long time. She told him that pain doesn't cancel out pain, that two wrongs don't magically make one person innocent. The family was left divided as relatives in the room started speaking up, some defending Kirk, others quietly nodding at Rasheeda's words. Friends chimed in, some saying they never saw this coming, others admitting they had sensed something was off for a long time. One friend said she remembered nights when Rasheeda would call just to talk, her voice small and tired. Kirk snapped back, accusing everyone of being fake, of choosing sides without knowing the full story. Rasheeda responded that this was the full story, at least her truth, and she wasn't going to shrink it anymore to make anyone else comfortable. As the conversation continued, the confession became clearer in this imagined script. Rasheeda explained that it wasn't about love or revenge, but about feeling human again in a moment when she felt completely broken. She didn't give names or details, only said it was brief and it ended because guilt consumed her. Kirk demanded to know when, demanding timelines, demanding answers, his anger mixing with disbelief. She told him it happened during a period when they were barely speaking, when the house felt colder than the streets outside. He shouted that distance was not an excuse. She shouted back that neglect was not nothing. The room descended into chaos. Voices overlapped. Producers tried to calm things down. Someone suggested a break, but neither of them wanted to sit down. Fans are shocked in this fictional universe because for once, Kirk looked genuinely shaken, not just angry but hurt in a way he didn't know how to hide. His voice dropped as he asked her if she ever loved him the way she claimed. Rasheeda's eyes filled with tears again as she said love was the reason this hurt so much, not the reason it happened. Outside the room, word began to spread fast. Phones buzzed as people texted what they were witnessing. Fans online, in this dramatized story, immediately took sides, some calling Rasheeda a hypocrite, others saying this proved how deeply damaged the relationship really was. Inside, the conversation turned darker. Kirk accused her of humiliating him, of flipping the script for the world to judge him again. Rasheeda replied that the world had already judged her for years, and she survived it. Now it was time for the truth to breathe, no matter how ugly. As security stepped closer, sensing things could get physical, Rasheeda said one final thing that hung in the air like smoke. She said she didn't know if their marriage could survive this, but she knew lying definitely wouldn't. Kirk stared at her, speechless for the first time that night, his anger replaced by something closer to fear. The cameras captured every second, every twitch, every tear, because this wasn't just another argument. This was a turning point, and as the scene faded, the question lingered heavy and unanswered. What happens when the person everyone thought was unbreakable finally admits they broke to the silence after her last words felt heavier than all the shouting that came before it, and nobody rushed to fill it because everyone in the room could feel that something irreversible had already happened. Kirk finally sat back down, running his hands over his face like he was trying to wake himself up from a bad dream, while Rasheeda remained standing, shoulders squared, breathing slowly as if grounding herself. Emotions ran high, but now they shifted from explosive to raw, the kind of pain that doesn't scream but seeps into every corner of the room. One of the producers gently suggested moving forward with the conversation, reminding them they were here to talk things through, not tear each other apart, but that reminder almost felt pointless because the damage was already done. Kirk broke the silence first, his voice quieter but sharper, asking how long she planned on punishing him for mistakes he had already owned. He said it felt like every time they tried to move forward, she found a way to drag them back into darkness. Rasheeda responded without hesitation, saying this wasn't punishment, this was truth, and truth doesn't run on anyone's timeline. Fans are shocked in this fictional storyline because the woman who once swallowed everything for the sake of peace was now refusing to back down. She told him that forgiveness never meant forgetting, and survival never meant healing. A close friend tried to step in, suggesting counseling, space, time, anything to stop the bleeding happening in real time. Rasheeda nodded, saying she had begged for those things before, when she felt herself slipping. Kirk snapped back that he wasn't a mind reader, that she never told him she was on the edge. That's when she laughed, not humorously but bitterly, and said she had been screaming in ways he chose not to hear. The family was left divided as Kirk's side argued that communication goes both ways, while others pointed out how often Rasheeda had been expected to carry the emotional load alone. As the discussion continued, Rasheeda opened up more, her voice trembling as she described feeling like a brand, a backbone, a shield for everyone else while slowly disappearing as a woman. She said people praised her strength without realizing how heavy it was to be strong all the time. Kirk listened, jaw tight, his anger slowly giving way to discomfort. He admitted he never thought she would be the one to cross that line, saying he always believed she was different. Her response cut deep when she said being different didn't make her invincible. Another cast member asked the question everyone was thinking, whether Kirk could forgive her if the roles were reversed. Kirk hesitated, and that hesitation spoke louder than any answer. Fans are shocked because for once, Kirk didn't have a comeback ready. He admitted he didn't know, that the idea made his chest tight, that it hurt in a way he wasn't prepared for. Rasheeda nodded slowly, saying, "Now you understand a fraction of what I lived with." The room fell quiet again, not out of shock this time, but out of recognition. Outside the room, reactions were already spiraling in this fictional universe. Social media exploded with clips, captions, and hot takes. Some fans accused Rasheeda of rewriting history, others said this confession made her more human than ever. Inside, Kirk stood again, pacing as he tried to process what forgiveness would even look like now. He asked her if she regretted it. She said she regretted the pain, not the honesty, and that distinction only fueled his frustration. He accused her of choosing the worst possible way to tell him, of turning a private wound into public spectacle. Rasheeda reminded him that privacy had never protected her before, and silence had only ever benefited one of them. Emotions ran high as voices rose again, but this time there was less chaos and more desperation. Kirk asked if she was still in love with him. She paused for a long moment before answering, saying love doesn't disappear overnight, but it does change when trust keeps getting broken and stitched back together wrong. A family member urged them to remember their kids, reminding them that everything said here would echo at home. That mention shifted the tone again. Rasheeda's eyes softened as she spoke about wanting to model honesty instead of pretending. Kirk rubbed his temples, saying he didn't want their children to see their parents as broken. Rasheeda replied that pretending to be whole was what broke them in the first place. As the night wore on, exhaustion replaced adrenaline. Kirk admitted he felt embarrassed, exposed, and angry at himself for not seeing her pain sooner. Rasheeda admitted she was terrified of losing her family but more terrified of losing herself completely. Fans are shocked in this imagined storyline because neither of them walked away victorious. There was no clear villain, no easy resolution, just two people standing in the aftermath of years of unresolved hurt. The conversation ended not with forgiveness or separation, but with uncertainty. Kirk said he needed time, space to figure out if he could rebuild trust from this side of the wound. Rasheeda said she understood, adding that she would no longer chase understanding at the cost of her sanity. As they walked out separately, the cameras lingered on their expressions, capturing the weight of everything unsaid. The air felt thick with unanswered questions, and as the door closed behind them, it was clear this story was far from over, with consequences that would ripple through their family, their friendships, and the court of public opinion in ways no one could yet predict. The hallway outside felt colder than the room they had just left, and every step Rasheeda took echoed like a reminder that there was no going back to the way things were before. Kirk walked a few feet behind her, not close enough to reach out, not far enough to escape the weight of her presence. Neither of them spoke, but the silence between them was loud, crowded with questions, regrets, and fear. Producers whispered directions, cameras adjusted angles, and yet it felt like the world had narrowed down to two people standing on opposite sides of a truth that refused to stay buried. Later that night, in this fabricated storyline, Kirk sat alone in a darkened space, replaying the conversation over and over in his head. Anger came first, then disbelief, then something deeper that unsettled him more than rage ever could. He thought about every moment he dismissed as stress, every time he assumed Rasheeda's strength meant she was fine. Fans are shocked because this was the first time Kirk questioned his own version of events, the first time he wondered if confidence had blinded him to quiet desperation. He grabbed his phone, scrolling through messages from friends offering support, most of them framing him as the victim. Instead of comfort, it made his chest feel heavier. Rasheeda, meanwhile, sat with a close friend, finally letting her guard down now that the cameras were at a distance. Her voice cracked as she admitted she didn't know if she had just destroyed her marriage or saved herself. Her friend reminded her that telling the truth doesn't mean you wanted the fallout, but it does mean you chose yourself. Emotions ran high as Rasheeda confessed how long she had rehearsed that moment in her head, how many times she almost backed out, afraid of being judged more harshly than ever before. The fear wasn't just about Kirk, it was about the fans, the comments, the labels waiting for her. The next day, reactions poured in fast and unforgiving in this imagined universe. Blogs ran with sensational headlines, twisting the confession into sound bites that stripped away all context. Fans are shocked and divided, some calling Rasheeda a fraud, others saying the double standards were impossible to ignore. Friends of the couple started speaking out, some claiming they had seen signs, others insisting they never believed Rasheeda was capable of betrayal. Every opinion felt louder than the last, and neither Rasheeda nor Kirk could escape the noise. When they finally spoke again, it was off camera, or at least that's how it felt to them, though microphones still caught every shaky breath. Kirk asked the questions that had been haunting him, not yelling this time, but speaking like someone afraid of the answers. He asked if she ever planned to tell him before now. She admitted she wanted to, but she was scared that her truth would erase all the pain she had endured in everyone else's eyes. He replied that it did hurt, but not in the way he expected. It hurt because he realized how little he really knew about the woman he shared his life with. The family was left divided as word reached relatives who hadn't been present. Some called Rasheeda demanding explanations, others called Kirk telling him to stand his ground. A heated phone call with a family member pushed Rasheeda to tears when she was told she had embarrassed the family name. She responded through sobs that silence had been embarrassing her for years. Kirk overheard part of the conversation and felt a strange mix of protectiveness and resentment, unsure whether he had the right to defend her or the need to distance himself. As days passed, the tension followed them everywhere. Kirk tried throwing himself into work, but every beat, every meeting felt hollow. Rasheeda focused on her business, finding comfort in routine, yet even success felt muted under the weight of uncertainty. Fans are shocked in this fictional storyline because instead of explosive confrontations, the drama shifted into something quieter and more painful, the slow unraveling of certainty. Friends noticed the distance, the lack of casual affection, the way conversations stayed surface level. One evening, Kirk confronted Rasheeda again, asking if the confession was truly the whole truth. His voice carried suspicion, not accusation, and that hurt her more than shouting ever could. She assured him she had nothing left to hide, saying she couldn't survive another secret. He admitted that trust felt fragile now, like glass already cracked. She replied that it always had been, they just pretended not to see the fractures. Emotions ran high as they both acknowledged that rebuilding would require more than apologies, more than time. In the midst of it all, an unexpected voice entered the conversation when someone from their past reached out in this fabricated drama. The message hinted at knowing more than what had been said publicly, stirring paranoia and reopening wounds. Kirk confronted Rasheeda with the message, demanding to know if there were layers she hadn't peeled back yet. She was stunned, insisting she had no idea what the person was talking about. Doubt crept in, subtle but poisonous, and fans are shocked because trust began eroding in real time, not from new betrayal, but from the shadow of unanswered questions. The couple argued again, not with yelling but with exhaustion. Kirk accused her of opening a door she couldn't control. Rasheeda fired back that secrets have a way of escaping no matter how tightly you hold them. The family was left divided once more as advice poured in from all sides, some urging them to separate, others insisting this was just another test. Neither option felt right because both carried loss. As the weeks unfolded, the emotional toll became visible. Kirk admitted to a friend that he didn't recognize his own reactions anymore, that being on this side of betrayal felt disorienting. Rasheeda admitted to her inner circle that she feared she had finally become the villain in a story she spent years surviving. Fans are shocked as public opinion continued to swing wildly, proving that no explanation would ever satisfy everyone. The strain reached a breaking point when Kirk asked for space, not as a punishment but as a necessity. Rasheeda agreed, though the word space echoed painfully in her chest. They stood in their shared home, surrounded by memories, unsure which ones were anchors and which were chains. As Kirk walked away for the night, neither of them knew if distance would bring clarity or confirm what they were too afraid to say out loud, leaving the future hanging in uncertainty, heavier than any accusation ever could. The house felt unfamiliar once Kirk left, like the walls themselves were holding their breath, and Rasheeda moved through the room slowly, touching furniture as if to remind herself that this life was real and not just a scene playing on repeat. The quiet was unsettling, louder than any argument, and emotions ran high in the stillness because there was nothing left to distract her from her thoughts. She replayed every word she had spoken, every pause, wondering if honesty had finally cost her everything she fought so hard to protect. Fans are shocked in this fictional storyline because the woman known for holding it together was now alone with the aftermath of her own truth. Kirk, staying elsewhere, tried to convince himself the space was temporary, necessary, logical. But at night, logic dissolved into doubt. He stared at the ceiling, questioning his own reactions, his pride bruised in ways he didn't know how to articulate. He admitted to a close friend that he felt exposed, not just publicly but emotionally, like the ground beneath his role as husband had shifted. The friend reminded him of everything he had endured, but instead of comfort, it sparked frustration. Kirk snapped that endurance didn't erase pain, and for the first time, he acknowledged out loud that this hurt felt different because it challenged the narrative he had clung to for years. Meanwhile, whispers grew louder in this imagined universe. Someone from the extended circle began hinting at details, claiming they knew when Rasheeda's moment of weakness happened, stirring speculation and half-truths. Blogs ran with it, fans dissected timelines, and every old clip was reanalyzed for signs nobody noticed before. Fans are shocked as theories spiraled, some accusing Rasheeda of hiding more, others accusing Kirk of pushing her to the edge. The family was left divided once again, with phone calls turning into arguments and support turning conditional. Rasheeda confronted the noise head-on during a tense conversation with a family member who questioned her character. She responded calmly but firmly, saying character isn't defined by one mistake but by how you face it. The words surprised even her because she realized she was no longer speaking to convince anyone else. She was speaking to herself. Emotions ran high as she admitted that for years she had allowed other people's comfort to outweigh her own truth, and she was done paying that price. Kirk, feeling the pressure mount, reached out unexpectedly, asking to talk. When they met, the energy was cautious, like two people approaching a fragile structure afraid it might collapse if touched wrong. He admitted the space hadn't brought him peace, only more questions. Rasheeda admitted the same. They talked about the kids, about routine things, circling the real issue until Kirk finally asked whether she believed their marriage could survive this. She hesitated, not because she didn't care, but because she refused to lie. She said survival was possible, but only if both of them were willing to rebuild without pretending the cracks never existed. That honesty hit Kirk harder than any accusation. He confessed that part of his anger came from shame, from realizing how quickly empathy showed him what he had once dismissed. Fans are shocked in this fictional storyline because Kirk wasn't defending himself now, he was reflecting. He admitted he had grown comfortable being forgiven, assuming that strength meant infinite capacity. Rasheeda listened quietly, tears streaming, because acknowledgement was something she had longed for even more than apology. Just when it seemed like a fragile understanding was forming, another twist emerged. A mutual friend revealed that the story circulating online had been fueled by someone seeking attention, exaggerating details to stay relevant. While some of the speculation was false, the damage was already done. Kirk felt angry again, accusing Rasheeda of opening the door to chaos. She responded that chaos didn't need an invitation, it just needed silence to thrive. The argument flared briefly, then fizzled into exhaustion, both realizing they were fighting the same cycle from different sides. Public reactions intensified. Fans are shocked as opinion pieces framed Rasheeda as either a fallen icon or a brave truth-teller. Kirk was painted alternately as a victim or a cautionary tale. Neither recognized themselves in the extremes, and that disconnect added to the strain. The family was left divided publicly now, not just privately, with some relatives defending Rasheeda in interviews while others criticized her choices. One night, Kirk admitted something he hadn't said before, that part of his pain came from fear of losing control over the narrative of his life. Rasheeda replied softly that control had never protected either of them, only honesty had a chance. The moment was quiet, heavy, but sincere. Emotions ran high because it felt like a crossroads, not dramatic, not explosive, but decisive in its own way. As days turned into weeks, they existed in limbo, neither together nor fully apart. Routines overlapped awkwardly, conversations stayed careful. Counseling was mentioned, not as a fix but as a tool. Kirk admitted he needed help understanding his reactions. Rasheeda admitted she needed reassurance that vulnerability wouldn't always be punished. Fans are shocked because the drama shifted again, away from scandal and towards something more uncomfortable, accountability. Yet doubt lingered. Kirk still struggled with flashes of resentment, moments when the image of betrayal resurfaced unexpectedly. Rasheeda struggled with guilt, wondering if redemption was even possible in the public eye. The family was left divided emotionally, some urging them to move on together, others suggesting separation before more damage was done. The tension reached another peak when Kirk questioned whether staying together was habit or choice. Rasheeda answered that love had become a question they both needed to answer honestly for the first time. There was no yelling, no tears this time, just a heavy pause filled with understanding and fear. As they parted again that night, neither promised anything except continued conversation. The uncertainty hung thick in the air, heavier than anger, heavier than blame. Fans are shocked because the story no longer had clear edges, no easy villains or heroes. It was messy, unresolved, and painfully human. As the cameras followed their separate paths once more, it became clear that whatever came next would not be defined by one confession, but by whether truth, once spoken, could actually lead to healing, or whether it would simply mark the end of everything they once believed was unbreakable. And now it's your turn to step into the middle of this storm, because this story doesn't end with answers, it ends with questions that only you can weigh in on. After everything you've just heard, after every confession, every argument, every quiet moment that hurt louder than shouting, you have to ask yourself what you would do if you were standing in their shoes. Fans are shocked, emotions ran high, and the family was left divided, but the biggest debate is still unfolding right now, with you. Do you believe honesty, even when it comes too late, can save a relationship, or does the truth sometimes arrive only to close the door forever? Was Rasheeda brave for finally speaking her truth, or did that confession cross a line that can never be uncrossed? And what about Kirk? Was this his moment to truly understand pain from the other side, or just another chapter in a cycle that keeps repeating? These are not easy questions, and that's exactly why this story has everyone talking. Scroll through the comments and you'll see it already: people choosing sides, people switching sides, people admitting this hit closer to home than they expected. Because beneath the reality TV drama, beneath the headlines and hot takes, this story taps into something real. It forces you to think about forgiveness, accountability, pride, and the cost of silence. It asks whether strength means enduring everything or finally saying enough. If this story made you feel something, if it made you pause, question, or even argue out loud with your screen, then don't stay silent. Hit that like button to let us know this kind of deep, emotional storytelling matters to you. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what happens next, because this saga is far from over and the next twist could change everything all over again. And most importantly, drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell us where you stand right now, not where you stood at the beginning, but where you landed after hearing it all. Do you think this marriage can survive, or is some damage too deep to repair? Should the past finally be put to rest, or will it always resurface in new ways? Your voice is part of this conversation, and your opinion matters more than you think. Share this video with someone who loves reality TV drama, or someone who's ever argued about love, trust, and second chances. Start the debate, keep the discussion alive, because stories like this don't fade quietly, they echo. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and thank you for being part of a community that isn't afraid to dive into the messy, complicated, emotional side of love and truth. We'll see you in the next video, and until then, keep watching closely, because in stories like this, everything can change in a moment.